Hey guys, my name is Promise. Welcome to another episode. I'm gonna basically be taking you guys through the high frequency separation technique. It's very simple. If you go through the steps I'm gonna talk about in few minutes, you would see a very wonderful result thereafter. This is an image I took a month back. Now the image is opened in the camera raw. A few adjustments has been done to it already. We're going to go ahead and open up the image in Photoshop. Now this is the Photoshop environment. You come to the layer part of the software, you right click on the background layer and then you duplicate. You're going to basically be having the low frequency layer, high frequency layer, and then the skin texture. We'll take it bit by bit. So we are going to name the first layer the low frequency layer. We'll go ahead and create another layer which is called the high frequency layer. Drag up the high frequency layer to be on top. Now the basic reason why these two layers are created is to separate the skin color or the skin tone from the skin texture. We'll click on the low frequency layer and then we'll go to filter, we'll go to blur, and then we'll hit on Gaussian blur. Now the Gaussian blur is going to be applied twice, so make sure your radius is not very high when applying the first one. For me this is very high, so most times I shuttle between 5 and 6 for my first radius. We'll do 6 for our first radius, and then we'll click on the high frequency layer, go ahead and go into the image and then apply image. Now you're going to change your layer option to the low frequency. Make sure your blending mode is on subtract, and then make sure your scale is on 2 and then your offset is at 128. We're going to go ahead and hit the OK button. So we'll change our layer options to linear light. We select the low frequency layer, convert our low frequency into a smart object. We'll go back to our Gaussian blur. We'll go to filter, you go to blur and Gaussian blur. In the second Gaussian blur you select, make sure your radius is at a point where you want your skin detail to still be available. If you want your skin detail very smooth or extremely smooth, take your radius as high as possible. Then if you want it very mild, leave your radius at an average number. So for me, I personally use 12. I use 14. For the purpose of the training I would use 13. 13 is okay for my radius. Don't worry, it will get better. A smart filter layer is being created beneath the low frequency. So now you click on the smart filter layer, we go to image, go to adjustment, and then we invert the image. You have two foregrounds basically, so the white and then the black. To paint over the skin color, you make sure your foreground is white. This is how to switch your foreground. If at any point you overpaint or you paint an unwanted part of the image, use your black foreground to paint over the same surface again. It returns your removed details or removed highlight or whatever. Remember the low frequency layer is selected, so we're going to go over to our brush. Now for the purpose of the training, you leave your opacity at 100 and then you leave your flow at 100. To paint over the skin, you zoom really close. Now a perfect image is made up of highlights and shadows and then the mid-tones. Now make sure you don't paint your highlights into your shadows and then you don't paint your shadows into your highlights and all that, the vice versa. We'll go back to our brush and then we'll paint. You paint gradually. Now if you get to any point where you feel your brush is too big, you reduce your brush and then you still paint over the surfaces. Make sure you don't paint into the eye, you don't paint into her mouth, so that you could still leave your details. If at any point you get to the edges, make sure your pour is not very high, because once your pour is very high, it ends up getting other unwanted details into the color layers. If for any reason you paint into her mouth, then select your black foreground and then return the removed details underneath her nose to still make the image look original, and then her eye. Let's see the journey so far. Then I highlight the both layers and then group them. Now this is our original. This is where we are now. Fine, we're going to go ahead and create another layer which will be named the skin texture. We click on OK. We drag it to the very up layer window. We'll go over to our image, our adjustments, and then we desaturate our skin texture alone. We'll convert the skin texture layer to a smart object. We'll go ahead and go to the filter, the order, and then the high pass. In choosing your high pass, make sure you don't choose figures that are very high. It could be very, very powerful on your image. For me, I basically use 2. Sometimes I choose 3. Go ahead and then change our layer options to vivid light. Vivid light makes it smoother, and then the linear light makes it harder. So you choose the one you want to use. So I think I prefer the vivid light. It makes it smoother. Go ahead and hold down the Alt button on your keyboard, and then you create a mask. Paint over our color tones again. So we'll go over to our brush. Make sure your foreground is white. I increase my brush size, and then I paint over the same layer again. If you look closely at the image, the skin texture is fully returned, and then the image is a lot sharper. You're basically painting over the same color tone layers to return the removed details. This is without the skin texture, and then this is with the skin texture. If at any point you feel the skin texture settings is very high, you're going to go ahead and reduce the opacity of the skin texture to still help your image pop. This is our original, this is our final, this is our original, this is our final. To enhance the image more, I apply my brightness and contrast effect. I like taking my contrast to the plus. Now if you look at the image, it's nice, and then I increase my brightness a bit to make the image sharper. Now I'm gonna go ahead and then select the hue saturation effect. Now this image is perfect already. This is how I want my final image look like. This is where we'll stop for today. If you like what you've seen, hit the like button, and then subscribe to my channel. More and more of this is going to come by the day. I'm going to be needing your comments on this. If you like it, if you want me to talk about anything on Photoshop, on photography, on cinematography, just go ahead and then tell me on the comments. I'll be very, very glad to go through your comments and then just give you something really nice. My final image I cropped, and then this is what we have. Once again, I'm very happy and excited to share the simple processes of the high frequency separation technique. Thank you.